You're watching Nation 1 TV News Hour. My name is Uzaglo Elizabeth. Ghana's Trade Minister Honorable Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare and ECOWAS delegates visited Casapreco Company Limited to advocate for the removal of non-tariff barriers and boost regional manufacturing. Discover how this fifth ECOWAS ministerial meeting is set to transform the West African trade landscape.
To host the fifth ECOWAS Trade and Industry Ministerial meeting in Ghana. It is a big honor for us, and we have delivered. The whole idea of this meeting is to deepen regional integration. It is the way to go, and we don't have a choice. Today we are here to also work on the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We'll be also speaking about MC14, the fallout from Yaoundé. And so this is an important meeting for ECOWAS because all ministers for trade and industry in the ECOWAS need to come together to see how we move trade and industry forward. It is right learning that industrialization is the thing of the moment, is the one thing that can create jobs for our teeming youth. No one country can do it alone. We need regional supply chains, we need countries to work together with each other. We need our borders to be seamless. We need to harmonize standards. There are a lot of things that we can do together to take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which Ghana hosts. And so today, a lot of things are going to happen, and we want this to be very impactful. It shouldn't be one of those meetings, because this is one meeting that I'm expecting timelines, and I'm expecting us to come back in a quarter to see how the implementation has gone. We need to be up and doing it. We are also grateful to Excellency John Dramani Mahama for graciously providing whatever we needed for this to happen. We thank EXIM and all the ministries, agencies for supporting us to host our colleagues very well. And so today, at the end of tomorrow, we should be able to come out with the things that we have achieved, the roadmap more importantly. As for the meeting, there have been a lot of meetings in this life, but meetings with timelines, with implementation targets is the way to go. And this, I can assure you that I'll provide leadership for this to happen. I thank ECOWAS for choosing Ghana. We thank all our colleagues for coming. I think that a lot of ministers are here, the head of delegations are here. All of us will start work today. The implementation will start today so that we can achieve the needed results, so that we can create the West Africa our people truly deserve. I have become a champion of non-tariff barrier. I keep on saying that I am not scared of tariff barriers, because if the tariff is $5, you can incorporate it in your cost of production, and then it's easier. But non-tariff barrier has become a monster for all of us, and we are dealing with it today. If you listen to my speech today, it was high on my speech that we need to deal with non-tariff barriers. We need to talk about harmonization. We need our borders to be seamless. When somebody says, let's trade on Africa Continental Free Trade Area, what the person is saying is, I'm coming to sell to you, but I close my border to you. That is not the way to go. Because in one breath, they say the corn is too yellow. When you produce a yellow corn, then they say the yellow is not the yellow we are talking about. These are the barriers that is not helping us. Africa needs to trade among Africans. West Africa needs to trade among itself. It is the only way to go. You know, we trade among ourselves about just 10%. Other people are doing what the EU is doing about 60%. We must up our game, and this is the meeting to check that, because this meeting is a meeting for ministers for trade and industry. We have what it takes to take the decision. I've told them we have been talking. This is the time for us to take the decision. For Ghana, Excellency John Dramani Mahama has given me the mandate to work on integration, has given me the mandate to make sure that Ghana takes leadership, and this is exactly what we are doing. I'm sure that these issues along the border post, will be solved with digitalization. And I'm happy that ECOWAS is here with funding to make sure that it happens. Ghana remains the champion. We'll create the leadership with our colleagues to make sure that this happens.
ECOWAS Council of Ministers responsible for industry, trade and investment is a particularly strategic one at this time. Nigeria was privileged to host last year in Abuja, and since then, in just 1 year, it's amazing how the world has changed. From what we are seeing in Europe with Ukraine and Russia to what we're seeing in the Middle East, and just so much has happened. We had the WTO Ministerial Conference as well, hosted in Africa for the second time in Yaoundé, Cameroon. And so it's an important time for ministers responsible for industry, trade and investment to come together to talk about global multilateral trade and what it means for us in ECOWAS in this region, to talk about the African Continental Free Trade Area and how we're plugging into that, and of course to talk about ECOWAS, and fourthly to talk about bilateral relations amongst members and non-members. And so that's why we're here. The idea is to deliver prosperity, economic progress and development for our people, over 400 million people across ECOWAS, about half that number being in Nigeria. It was important that I was here today. What it would take would be collaboration and coordination. And so that's why these meetings are important. We have to determine what sectors we want to play at. When we look at the global ecosystem and what's happening right now, you would have heard that solid minerals, critical minerals, rare earths, there's really no country in West Africa that doesn't have significant amounts of one solid mineral or another. How are we coming together to mine that? How are we coming together to access the global value chains? How are we coming together to develop productivity, industrialization? How are we solving our energy challenges together? Some of the countries have oil, some have gas. How are we making sure that infrastructure is connected? How are we leveraging software infrastructure like our national single windows? We're trading nations. How are we ensuring that the connectivity, the movement of people, and the movement of goods, the movement of services is enabled? You may recall that just about 2 weeks ago, I was in Lome, Biashara, and the president had recourse to make a visa-free for 30 days for all Africans based on an intervention I made on behalf of a Nigerian citizen and a Ghanaian citizen. So these are the kinds of discussions that continue to move the continent forward, and we are here as representatives of governments and people of West African states to ensure that we make sure that that prosperity trickles down to our
AfCFTA. What has we as a commission done to really accelerate what I believe means implementation? We've been negotiating for a number of years, but now emphasis is on implementation. The first thing I'll say is that we as a community have adopted an ECOWAS implementation strategy for the AfCFTA. An agreement on paper, if not intentionally worked on, would not bring the opportunities for the private sector, in particular for women and youth who are trading. So we have the strategy that has 5 key pillars. One of the key pillars is to continue to deepen our own regional integration. ECOWAS is now 51 years old, and we've had our free trade area for many decades. So, in fact, the Continental Free Trade Area is learning from what we have done in ECOWAS as a pioneer. But we also know that the issue of inclusivity, to make sure that the agreement does not benefit just a few, large companies only, but for every citizen, down to the micro, the small and medium enterprises. So we've done a number of, number one, awareness raising to let people know of the opportunities, capacity building, strengthening institutions to drive the way forward, and also providing support to member states to assist them to implement their own national implementation strategy. So it's not just about policy, it's about delivery and making sure the AfCFTA works for the entire West African citizens. We have an ECOWAS infrastructure master plan. We realized, and it is part of the ECOWAS vision, that without connectivity, you cannot move goods and services across borders. We need to have good roads, but not only roads. We need to have good rails, we need to have maritime and air transportation. In fact, not so long ago, the heads of states, recognizing the cost of air transport, directed all member states to reduce by 25% the fees that they're charging in terms of airports taxes. So there is this realization that we need to really reduce the cost of transportation, deepen logistics, and you've mentioned storage. very, very important. We're working on a number of initiatives at selected border posts to try and provide storage so that those that cannot pass the borders at a particular time, perishable products in particular, would not perish at the border. So these are very, very important issues. And on energy as well. Even here in Accra, Ghana, we have the ECOWAS Renewable Energy Authority. We have energy authorities also in Accra, in Cape Verde. So energy is also a critical factor, which the Honorable Minister of Ghana had mentioned.
Across the continent. And that is a very important opportunity for market participants. But this opening of the market comes with some challenges. And to address these challenges, you need clear regulation, especially on competition and consumer protection. The main purpose of having this regulation to ensure market efficiency and also consumer welfare. That's why I think it's important complement of what member states have been doing. ECOWAS also trying to come up with cross-border regulation to ensure that all trade across the region and beyond in compliance with competition rules and consumer protection principles.
Are the countries, maybe do the countries, appreciate this, need for cross-border, competition regulation?
Yes, actually, what we are doing here is on behalf of member states, because actually this regulation that we are presenting has initially developed in collaboration, strong collaboration from member states. It's not only ECOWAS that came for this regulation, but it's a collective effort. And we are here just to present your representative member states that also supporting this initiative. I think it's something that is very important to explore and to say that what we are pleading for is to assure an harmonious and smooth implementation of this regulation.
This is your full name?
My name is Kofi. I'm the Executive Director of the ECOWAS Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Nation One TV. Kindly subscribe for more news updates.